Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so I have Kenneth W. Welch Jr. on the line, and he's founder, inventor, CEO, and president over at Global Oceanic Designs. Kenneth, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Adam. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm doing fantastic and excited to have you on the show today. I know we have some news here. I know you just sold your company, and I want to get into that and also talk a little bit more about, your background as an inventor. But before we do all that, let's just to give the audience a little bit of a flavor. I know in the pre-show you said, well, if I tell my background, that's going to take 40 hours. Let's just give the audience a little bit of a flavor of kind of where you've been as an inventor. Tell us a little bit about your background, please.
Well, if you want me to start from my childhood, I was a Cub Scout, Eagle Scout. I love camping. I love adventure. I love travel. I've been a builder entrepreneur since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. My life took me into the military. I was an M60A1 tanker. Then I got out of that, went into modeling, choreography, directory, helped produce an outdoor amphitheater and productions for several years. Then I got into my own inventions, and here we are today.
So how'd you get into the ocean? I mean, it's just fascinating to me. I did a recent interview with George, and who obviously you know and worked with. How'd you get into the ocean? Tell us how this fascination began.
Listen, I have been fascinated by the water since I was born. When I was 1.5 years old, I crawled off the end of the diving board and went in the water at the pool.
Wow.
My dad let me sink to the 8-foot bottom, and then, I bobbed around for a while, and he dove in and brought me up. I crawled right back around and did it again. But we've always lived we've always lived within a few miles of the water. I mean, rivers, creeks, streams, lakes, oceans. I'm in love with water. It is it's the liquid, the elixir of life. When people are around water, their personalities seem to always be happier. It's resort atmospheres. It's water brings the balance to the world. I think you need it. And I think the more water is around us, the more trees, the greenery, life itself is in existence, and people feel more comfortable in their home.
Tell us a little bit more about Global Oceanic Designs and kind of how that came about and really what your vision was for the company.
Well, that started back when I was a kid, too. I built my first wooden submarine on the Sacramento River and was fascinated with going under, looking through the portholes. Of course, it imploded on me at about 12 feet down. But that was the beginning of it. And after that, I started seeing visions of underwater cities, towns, life on the sea, above, beneath, and within the world's waters. And I just never lost that fascination. I'm 66 years old, and I crave it as much today as I did back then. And I just see this big mass bodies of waters. If you take the surface area of the lakes, the rivers, the streams, and the ocean, the land base is just a speck. Okay? Life itself is in abundance in the oceans, and, it's limited on the land for the animals and the creatures. And I think mankind, as a caretaker, should be able to live off the land, under the land, on the water, above the water, beneath it. And so this has been my fascination with it. As an inventor entrepreneur, I have tried to create a line of products that would create new cities intact, from transportation to their power, to their circulation, to every aspect of agriculture, aquaculture, you name it, to make them survivable on the waters of the oceans and lakes, rivers, and streams.
Man, it blows my mind, because I got further and further into this, into kind of the background. I see, obviously Elon Musk trying to go into space, and then I see what you're doing, where you're like, no, we have the ocean right here that's so unexplored, untapped, I feel like it's kind of like opposite spectrums of like trying to get the ocean figured out. I just think the whole concept is amazing. It's almost, to me, it's just like going to, space is like kind of science fiction feel, Star Wars. To me, I'm like, okay, so kind of like Aquaman. He's down here in the ocean, like doing what he does there.
We barely touched the surface of the waters. I mean, the divers go down 180 feet. Hard suits take you down, through 400, 500 feet, maybe 1,000 feet. Submarines operate between 8 and 1,400 feet, naval equipment. And below that, there's only a handful of submersibles in the entire world on any given day, a couple that are traveling 4 hours down to the bottom, spending an hour downtime, and on a straight line seeing maybe 200 feet across in front of them and 100 feet in front of them, and they travel for an hour and a mile and then go back to the surface. So what we know about our oceans is actually remarkably not much. And as much as we've spent on the space race, we spend 1,500 times less for every dollar we go after seeing what's in our seas as we do trying to see what's in space.
Wow, that's a big difference in spend.
I think you would think it would be reversed.
You would, because it's right here, and it's like, and we need this. Like, we need our oceans to live and to sustain life on this planet. You think we'd want to know more about that part versus something that, it affects us, but it's not like it's not sustaining our day-to-day life.
No, it was really funny. I had some people here from NASA a few years back, and they were talking to me about my budgets, 1.35 to 2.4 million a year is what I've been investing in developing offshore technologies, along with my investors. And they said, your budget is as big as our budget is for NOAA for undersea exploration. And I went, excuse me? And they said, no, NOAA gets a lot of budgets for atmospheric things, and, they have the buoys and everything else. But when you actually get to the undersea exploration side of NOAA, its budgets are very tiny. It's $3 to $6 million. So here we are, one of the largest discovery companies for offshore, right along with NOAA, which is just absolutely crazy. And then if you times that by 1,500, that's the same budget to go to space. And it just seems to me that we have it backwards. We just truly have it backwards. We haven't even created our first underwater cities yet. Why? While we're trying to figure out how to put cities in space. We don't even have the equivalent of the space station under the sea. We have one little small compact thing that's run by Jules Habitat for resort tourism, and we have a couple shore-based undersea restaurants, which, of course, go down a few feet. Most of the nuclear submarines, they have the periscopes. They don't have anything else. And then we have the Avalon and these other few adventurous submarines that go down to the deep and the dark, and we have no idea what it is. And with the average depth of 2 miles, our oceans, they're out of reach. And then people don't realize that our lakes and our rivers and our streams go down quarter mile, half mile, mile deep or more. Our rivers go down 200, 300, 500, 800 feet or more. And all these are untouched areas of our world, very, very little known.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know that about you. Just blew my mind. I'm like, really? Lakes and streams? I had no idea. Wow. So I know you recently, let's switch it up a bit. So I know you recently, you sold the company. Tell us a little bit more about that and kind of your thoughts moving forward and your hopes and expectations.
Well, I'm still trying to get over the fact that I actually would sign a contract that would release my company.
I was just going to say, I know your heart.
I'm still like, pinch me. What have you done? Are you absolutely crazy? My God, this has been your life's work. But I'll tell you what, I met George Engelman, and this man is over the top, out of this world. He is absolutely fantastic. His knowledge in offshore and his education in offshore technologies and alternative technologies just truly made him somebody to hand the baton to. And somehow he convinced me to hand him the darn baton. So I did. We have over 1,000 technologies that we've worked on that would be rolled out as a combinational city system and, new ways of producing life on the sea. And he said, listen, let me roll these out, one at a time. Let's walk down the hill. Let's take them all. At the end, we build our city. And I said, that's the plan all along. And I said, this is going to take not only my generation, my 40 years, but, it's probably got another 40 years to go. He says, well, I'm willing to give it 18, and then I'll train it and hand the baton to somebody else. And, maybe in the next 40 years, we'll get to see our cities under the sea, tram systems taking us out to them, tourism floating on top of it, and creating our agriculture and aquaculture for our land-based cities from the oceans, which, our technologies allow us to do that. So there's how it went.
Ken, I have chills right now, and as you're doing the math, I'm like, wow, okay, I did the math of my age quickly, and I'm like, I should be around to see this maybe if God willing. I'm going to be on this thing, and I'm going to remember. I'm going to be like, oh man, I talked to Ken. He's the one who have heard all this stuff. I just think it's epic. I think it's obviously an amazing thing you're doing for the planet, for people, and just kind of the awareness that's going to come from this, number one, and just what a legacy, to see your life work and to see it kind of pass the baton, as you said. I just think it's a true testament. I'm happy that you found someone in George that you could trust and that you could really, get to take this thing and continue to go down the line, and in time as he's going to find his successor to it and do exactly what you just mentioned. To me, I just see that as that's really the circle of a great, long-term, multi-generational entrepreneur, venture. All the stuff we have around us, I tell people this all the time. I'm like, all the stuff, even the buildings, all these other things, that was built on generations of labor. There wasn't one person that did all this stuff. It takes generations to get some of these big accomplishments like the, New York, the skyscrapers, things like that. That took a long time. With your vision, it takes generations, and it's exciting though because it can change literally the face of the planet and the way that we live. It's exciting.
Well, I tell you, it can put a planet to work. We could double our population, and by the development of our oceans, it would easily give everybody a job. Some of the technology I developed many years back was so far ahead of its time. It's like, I'm not even going to be alive when this stuff actually can go to fruition and start happening. Slice technology, the age of acrylics, and all these different things that have the lifespans that will create sustainable life on the sea. And here we have moved forward so quickly in the evolution of our factories and our chemists and everyone else that these technologies now are coming of age. And so this next 10, 12, 14 years is actually going to open the doorways to us actually seeing, floating cities on the sea, floating domes underneath the water that are suspended, that are research laboratories, resorts. Our world's going to change, and it's going to change quickly. I mean, if you go out and you build a platform, our 3D modeling technologies now allow us to take pictures of any mountainscape or valley, and we can recreate it on platforms at sea, and you wouldn't know there was any difference, right down to the plants. So, holy gosh, this next 25 years in our culture is going to be fascinating. I can't wait to get over COVID and move back into operation with things expanding themselves under the sea and the ocean, and start developing this environmentally friendly world in an environment that is open to us moving on to it. The sea life loves the fact that if you put certain text in the water, they just migrate around. It becomes habitats. We can coexist in this environment so easily versus other areas. When we put our fences up and we put our roads up in our concrete jungle, we got nowhere for the lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, we're driving nature to extinction, and in fact, we could easily move our populations into other areas in a different form and make it viable for all things to actually grow and exist on this planet.
Wow, that's amazing. I love it. Great story, Ken, and what a pioneer in what you're doing. So it was an honor, definitely, to have you on the podcast today and to share this information with my audience. And congrats, and of course, selling your company, and more importantly, on passing the baton and working with George so that you can continue your mission that you've been working on for the last 40 years plus. If somebody's listening to this and they want to learn more about Global Oceanic Designs, or to kind of follow the progress of everything that's going on, what's the best way for the audience to connect and learn more about that?
I tell you, all you have to go is to Google any search engine, type in Global Oceanic Designs, Inc., Sea Duct Systems, Inc., Kenneth W. Welch Jr., and welcome to my world. I am so well published, it's amazing.
Fantastic. Well, Ken, been awesome having you on the show today. Really appreciate it. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Business, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments on the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Ken, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you. And thank you very much for allowing me to tell my story.